everyone, welcome back. In today's video I'm drawing birds in my sketchbook for the Birbfest challenge. While working on these pages I realized that line work became a recurring theme even though it wasn't planned at all. It really made me think about how much line work can influence the final style, the clarity, and even the overall feeling of a drawing. The first bird was actually the most challenging one for me to start with. I wasn't sure which materials would work best, especially because of the pose. The open wings have a lot of small shapes and overlapping feathers, and I was concerned that if I only used watercolor pencils, everything would blend together once I activated them with water. Normally I don't use ink line work when working with watercolor pencils at all, but here I decided to try it as a kind of guideline, not to make the lines stand out but to keep the structure clear while painting. In the end, most of the line work almost disappears except in the wings, but it was incredibly helpful during the process, especially to keep the details readable without overworking the colors. It made the whole process feel much more relaxed because I didn't have to constantly worry about losing the form. For the second bird I chose a more dynamic pose again. The bird itself has very simple colors, it's basically just blue, so without any interesting pose it could easily look a bit flat. The open wings right in between taking off or landing felt perfect for line work. Because the subject is quite simple, the ink adds more visual interest and gives the whole drawing a clean, almost classy look. This is also the only bird where I show the initial pencil sketch because the pose is so dynamic. I wanted to quickly show how I simplify it with loose lines first and then add the details later. It actually made me think about doing a separate video in the future focusing just on simplifying poses and movement in sketchbook drawings. For this bird I decided to use brown ink instead of black and went with a brown Copic multiliner. Since the bird itself has a lot of warm, earthy tones, I wanted the line work to blend into the colors rather than sitting on top of the drawing. My goal here was a more realistic and softer look, where the line work doesn't feel separate but becomes part of the overall texture. After inking, I covered the entire bird with a light beige Ecoline marker as a base, and then went in with Polychromos colored pencils to build up the feather patterns and details. These pencils are perfect for fine details, and the brown ink merged really nicely with all the brown and warm tones. If I had used black ink here, it would have stood up much more, and for this bird, that wasn't the effect I was going for. For this bird, I approached line work in a completely different way. This time I started with watercolor first, blocking in the colors and painting most of the details before adding any ink. I used a dip pen with black ink, which I hadn't touched in a long time. I used to work with dip pens a lot, and I really missed that effect. Those rich, bold, slightly cartoony lines that feel very traditional, almost comic-like. It's definitely not perfect since I'm a bit out of practice, but honestly, that made me want to bring this tool back into my work more often. For the tail feathers, I switched to a brush pen because the softer tip works much better for feathers and add more movement to the lines. Adding line work after the painting completely changes the vibe of the illustration. You have to think very differently compared to inking first and coloring afterwards. Sometimes all it takes is changing the order of your process to see your work from a new perspective. For this bird, I tried a very line work focused approach. I started with fine loose lines and then colored the entire bird using colorful Arteza Fineliners. So technically everything here is line work. The head and the upper feathers were especially fun to draw. Those quick repetitive lines were very relaxing and almost meditative. I did struggle a bit with the darker gradient in the lower feathers. I couldn't quite get the gray to black transition right using only fine liners, so I added a dark gray Ecoline marker on top. At that point, the original line work started to behave more like an underdrawing, similar to a pencil sketch that gets painted over. Even though it's not a polished result, it really feels like a sketchbook drawing. Loose, imperfect, and very much about experimenting. This is the kind of technique I like to use when I want to draw quickly, try things out, and not overthink the outcome. For this final bird, I didn't use any ink at all. Instead, I created all the line work with a dark sepia Polychromo pencil. I've done this technique before because I love the soft vintage look it gives. Since I'd already used quite a bit of ink in the previous birds, I wanted to add a small twist for this one. It's important that the pencil is really sharp, otherwise it's hard to get clean lines. After the line work, I painted the whole bird with Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolors. The line work softened under the color, but I love the dreamy effect like an old illustration from a storybook. You could go over it again if you want darker lines, but I really enjoyed the subtle, soft look. And that's it for this second Birbfest video. I had so much fun experimenting with different line work techniques and mixed media. I hope you enjoyed seeing the process as much as I did creating it, and I can't wait to continue the challenge with even more birds. Thank you for watching. Bye guys!